Hi guys, it's Mary. Talk to me Tuesday, February 12th, 2019. Since I saw you last, it's been a week and I have just been sewing up a storm. First thing is I was a little concerned that my if you look way under all these layers of things on my design wall, this one in the back, this mystery medallion, I'm concerned about that one and my Saints quilt becoming UFOs because I've been kind of neglecting them. But they're still on my mind and I still plan to finish them. But I did stop and make a second, it's not up there, oh, it's under here. I made a second fleur-de-lis. This is Jennifer at Sew Hook's pattern. I had one black on gold, two black on gold and one gold on black, and I have made a second gold on black, so I have one less of those to make. I think I have five left total, four fleur-de-lis and one more of this thing, and then I can strip it and get that finished. I'm kind of excited about it getting it done because I want to get it quilted and gets a little bit of space on my design wall. So that was one thing that was kind of productive that I'd kind of been putting off, and I thought if I could just do a block every now and then I'll get there eventually. Then I want to tell you a sad story about this hashtag block that I'm just having so much trouble with. You see these hashtags? What happened was, this is part of my 102 blocks in 60 weeks. It's the 52 blocks in 52 weeks, the 50 blocks in 50 weeks, and so I'm making 102 blocks in 60 weeks, and I'm making 5 of each block. So I'm putting 4 of them, 4 of each together to put into something, and keeping a 5th one so that I'll have 1 of everything at the end to see what I'm going to do with all that. Anyway, that was the plan. Well, as you can see, I have 5 on here because what happened to the plan? Well, here's what happened. I think I might have talked about this last week. This fake white on here is a Moda Bella Solids Snow, and I had a jelly roll and a junior jelly roll of the snow, and then I was mixing that with black and this gray and this robin's egg blue. And I was going to make a throw similar to this every 2 or 3 weeks until I ran out of my 102 blocks. That was the plan. Well, the evil plan is working, but the blocks are what caused me a little concern, because what happened was I made this, and I made five blocks. And I used most, if not all, of my jelly roll. I still had the junior jelly roll, and I was going to take 4 of those and put them into my tic-tac-toe throw, which I'm still working on it, and it's ready to strip and then quilt. So it wasn't until after I had those 5 made and started making other blocks that I realized that that snow is not the same as the new snow, and so all of my new blocks are snow white, and this is snow cream. So I basically had 5 hashtag blocks that I couldn't use in my master plan, and didn't have 5 that I could use in white. So the simple solution, of course, is to throw those into their own quilt, which I did, and I had enough. By the time I put these cornerstones in here and made these 2 extra blocks, I had used up my jelly roll and my junior jelly roll, so I'm out of that cream, which is good, and I put blanks here. I thought of doing something cute there, and then I decided just to put the blanks there because what I really want to do right now is some creative quilting on that. So I'm going to probably quilt that in a cream and put something, whatever my skill level is up to next week, to do that. So then I needed 5 of the hashtags in white to go back to my plan. And I already had designated that 4 of these would be in my tic-tac-toe quilt, so that's waiting for, that wall hanging is waiting for those. So I thought, all right, well then I'll just do 5 of those in the white, and I made 5 of them, and they're supposed to look like this, and they didn't. I was piecing them, and these lines were not lining up, so they look like Legos that somebody had misshapen, and they were completely unusable. So I hadn't finished the blocks. I just done the centers of 5 of them. So I cut those up for paper piecing, which is always useful, and I started over. So I had now made 10 hashtags and still didn't have the 4 I needed for my tic-tac-toe hanging. So I decided I better paper piece them, because paper piecing, I get my corners right. So I made a design, no problem, and a pattern, and I started paper piecing, and it wasn't until I was way too committed to turn back that I realized we had a little problem. I couldn't read my own dang pattern, and of course it's just a pattern for me, so there's no reason to put any colors on it or anything that would help. So I ended up putting the wrong fabrics on the wrong pieces, and what I ended up with was not a hashtag, it was this. So I thought, that's not a bad block, and it'll match kind of the series I'm working on. So I finished 5 of these. So now I had 15 of this block and still didn't have the 4 hashtags that I needed for the tic-tac-toe quilt. So the saga continues. So at that point, I realized that I'm not making 102 blocks in 60 weeks. I'm now making 103 blocks in 60 weeks, and I have to find a great place for this to go. So on we go. So then I did manage to focus, concentrate, work hard, and I got 5 of these, 4 of which will go in the tic-tac-toe and 1 will go in the extra. So 20 hashtag blocks just to finish that one. So that's the hashtag saga. Then I did make 2 more blocks of those 103. One is, this is actually a log cabin pattern. It's a little bit different because it has a bigger center, but if you look, you can see it's a log cabin. And when I wanted it in my black, white, and elephant, and I didn't feel like, okay, it's going with the blocks that are going to come out about the same time as this, and therefore get ready to make another wall hanging, or really geometric, really kind of modern. And I thought that the log cabin was a little too traditional, even though I love log cabin, haven't made one in many years. So I decided if I switched up the fabrics a little, I could make it a little more modern, a little more geometric, but it is truly a log cabin. And this is my extra one that goes at the end that I don't know what I'm doing with yet. But when you put them together like this, they end up looking like a four-eyed monster's face or something. Or a robot or something. It's kind of cute. So I have that one, and then I did make, there are 2 of them over here. I did make 5 of this one, which I like. It got a lot of attention over at 52 Blocks because, as designed, this white and the elephant was all black, and the rest was other colors. And the person designing it had lipstick in mind, and so it was like, this is the tube of lipstick, that's the lipstick, and the rest was like background. And then there was, and when you sew it out like that, you end up making a swastika, and some people got offended by that. And so, and then she felt bad, and people were, you know how these websites get. So, I decided to avoid the issue by simply rearranging the colors, and I'm not sure it looks like lipstick, but it is going to fit in my quilt very nicely without offending anybody. Then the third block in that I'm working on right now, and it's going to have just a little, actually the same size blue, but instead of 4, it's going to be 5. I just want a touch of that color, so there'll be 4 of them in here, 5 of them in another block, and then this block and something else real geometric. I need to, it's actually, I know which one it is, but I haven't started on it yet. So that's coming along. So in the next few days, I'm going to have another one of these ready to throw together. And then, I don't know what I dropped. Then I used to, when I was paper piecing and came to the end of a fabric, or I had a little scrap of fabric that was just the right size, like too big to throw away, maybe not quite as big as I like to keep for paper piecing, although I still have this one sitting right here that I'm going to find. This is what was left of a charm square, and I put this in Hocus Pocus, and that's waiting for the perfect place. Maybe Star Trek has a place for this. So I use these things like that, but I digress. What I would do, if I had the perfect size piece, was I would take my scraps as I went and make half square triangles, and I'm pretty sure they're 2.5 inches, possibly 2, but probably 2.5. And I have a box full of them because I was using them as spacers between my sewing, my piecing, and I was sewing a lot, and I have a box full of those. Well, I know where the box is. I just haven't quite gotten to it yet. It's in my UFO closet. But I thought, I don't really know how many of those I have, how many I need to do with whatever I decide to do with it. And so I thought, well, I still have a scrap problem, and I still have quite a large stash of charms. And one of the problems I have with the charms, and I ran into this on Hocus Pocus and some other things, is you really can't, when you're paper piecing, you really can't use a charm that has most of a motorcycle on it, or about half of a Dalmatian, or most of his fireman's fire boots on it. So those are really, if those stay in my stash, which I go to when I'm paper piecing, they're just never going to get used. They've been in there for years, and they're just going to stay for many more years. This is another one. I like this fabric a lot. Very, very pretty, but when you're paper piecing, you're never looking for, you know, like if you've got a paper piece that's this big, you never want one that's part blue and part red. So I went through and pulled out some of the pieces. Horses, I mean, when you've got part of a horse face and most of a horse face, that's not conducive to paper piecing, but it's cute on a scrappy thing. I don't do scrappy very well. This is another example of one that if you're paper piecing, this isn't a good piece, but it's a very pretty piece of fabric. And so I thought, well, since I still need spacers and I still have these scraps I need to get rid of, in between what I'm doing, I'm taking, I call this adding machine tape. I guess it's now called calculator tape. I got the 3-inch wide, a little wider than normal. And I'm just literally foundation piecing, not paper piecing, but foundation piecing those onto this adding machine tape. And I'm just going to keep going and keep going and keep going. And at some point, I'm going to trim that down to 3 inches and make a scrappy quilt out of it. And if I keep putting my black pieces in from all of these squares and some elephant and white, then I could I could sash this or alternate strips of black, white, and elephant, and I think it'd be a kind of a fun, almost I Spy scrappy quilt. And like I said, I don't typically do scrappy. However, I am just starting a very scrappy quilt along over at American Patchwork Quilters. So that's quite unusual for me. But I have to say, yeah, it's gonna be scrappy. It's got 9 dark fat quarters and 9 or 7 light fat quarters, and I'm going blues on it, which is it's not out of my comfort zone. I like blue, and these are beautiful blues, but it's just out of my norm. So that'll be different, and it's big, and I think it would look lovely on my bed. So looking forward to that. The fabric for that is coming Thursday, and then on the 18th is when we start. So that's another thing I got going on. And then let's see, what else do I have? Oh, I did finish. The second thing that I was doing that I actually quilted was this. I made a mess of this. This is much bigger than I remembered it, and actually much bigger than I thought it was before I put it on there. I put these big old borders on here, and this thing got big. Anyway, this is that jack-o'-lantern. And like I said, I made a mess of it. It's actually got, I don't know what this batting is, man. It's like Warm and Natural or something. Between all of this, which is pieced in the hoop on my embroidery machine. That's an Anita Good Design pattern. And between all of this and this pretty heavy, it's not heavy, it's soft, but it's between all of this thing's heavy. And so I'm thinking that even though it's kind of a mess, it would be very, very, it's kind of just the right size for us short people, and it'd be very comfortable to cuddle under watching scary movies. And so I think I'm not going to trash it. I do have 2 of them, and this was going to be my practice one, and my next one's going to be one that's going to be something I can actually hang on the wall. But I did make a mess of it, and a couple of the things were my fault. Like, I've got these really cute, like, jack-o'-lanterns all quilted in here, and you can't see them because of my thread choice, but I was really, even on the back, you have to look, but they're cute. I was really not even caring what the thread looked like or if I could see it or anything like that, because I was focused on setting this up on the machine, getting the thread tension right, getting the design into the space. Got all that done fine. It's just the end result that doesn't look good. And so, and this is where I learned that how to, one of the things I wanted to learn and did on this is the quilting. This is heavy. The quilting in the pumpkin doesn't go into his eyes or his nose because I cropped those out. And that's something I'm very interested in doing, designating a shape and quilting in it, or designating a shape and quilting around it, because I have 2 quilts coming up that have to do one or the other of those. So that's, I use this as to learn that technique. So anyway, it's cute, it's a mess, and also the top borders and the top and bottom borders, I've got 2 borders. I don't count this one. I've got this border, the top and bottom of this border, and all of the 4 corners of the borders are done. But the side borders, where'd it go? these side borders, this one and this one, are not quilted. And so next time I want to try something interesting that I need to figure out on a practice piece, I am going to quilt those borders, and then I might even try free motion. I've been fighting that, but everybody says I would love it, so I might try some free motion on that, or some ruler work. I've got a cute ruler, and then I'll get this finished and get it on the couch so I can use it. But that was pretty exciting. It was my second quilt. The stained glass one was my first, and then the third one I did today. This one I think I showed you last week. This is a donation quilt, and it's the same pattern that Robin was using. So I threw it together. It was easy, and then I decided to quilt it today all by myself. Well, this was interesting because it took me 5 hours, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Hopefully a few weeks from now I can do something like this much faster, but I was absolutely fine with it taking 5 hours. I put it on the machine myself. I got it all set up. I was alone for 5 hours with this, and and this one is so light and it's so soft and just complete opposite of that. That's heavy. But anyway, I ran into a couple problems there all by myself with just my starter thread. One of the problems was that there's this much extra backing, but there's no border, no extra, no anything. And then on the sides, that's top and bottom, on the sides, there's about, this is the big side, there's about 2 inches of backing, if that, on this side, including a selvage, which you don't want to get into. And then on this side, it's about 1 inch. So I couldn't clamp that on and stitch next to it, and I didn't want to ask anybody for help. I wanted to figure this out. So it ended up quite a challenge. I put circles on it, and then it turns out that the sample thread that they gave me and the sample needles they gave me don't match up very well. So I just started in on this thread thinking, surely, wasn't even thinking about the needle. The thread kept breaking, and I realized my needle was too small. And anyway, I learned a lot. And it's got just, I don't know if you can see these, just circles everywhere. Yeah. It's a cute pattern. They're just different sized circles. I don't know if you can see any of this. Probably not. So it's cute. It just needs to now be bound and turned in. So you can see some of the circles. When I got to the end, I went ahead and let it finish. I do know how to crop that off of there without it stitching, but but I didn't care. So those are part of the circles here. So that was exciting. That's what I got done this week. And next on my wish list is, I think, this one, or tic-tac-toe, which is similar. And I'm going to get those quilted. I might do tic-tac-toe because this one's going to be more of a challenge because I left that negative space up there for me to play in. So, I do plan to get several more of these quilted in the next week, hopefully, but no pressure, no rush, and they're just coming along very well, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So that's it. Have a great week. See you next week. Bye.